What? Chase tilted his head, slightly lowering the gun. As you probably expect, Archline has rather unconventional ways of testing their experiments. Varrock's malice is some kind of bioweapon, I think. She shrugged. It started as a dog, just like you and me. But when it was just test after test, experiment after experiment, you couldn't even tell it was meant to be a dog anymore. I think they planned on selling the creature after it was perfected. Sell it to who? Liberty chuckled. Who knows? Terrorists, corrupt governments, the army, she listed off. Anyone willing to pay a top dollar for a creature with enough power to win a war. Her face darkened, fearing the potential for such a monstrous animal. Dutch, leading the executive of the Foundation, denied by its isolated testing. He always said it wasn't genetic enough. Basic tests wouldn't do it. A low growl emitted from her as she spoke. So instead, he decided to unleash the monster into Adventure Bay and watch its statistics. Holy shit! Chase faltered in revelation. Whoever this twisted dog was, he heartlessly gave the command to drop a lethal monster into an innocent city. All for the sole purpose of science. Whoever had to die for it. The Dachshund continued. They implanted some kind of device into its body. Something to track it and keep its movements on record. But we understand how smart that thing really is. And within minutes, located an implant torted it out. Her voice was now filled with spite. When that happened, Dutch looked at me and asked me if I wanted to go on a scouting mission. You did say you worked for them, Chase put together. But as what? If you're thinking of a scientist, then no. Liberty waved her paw. I was an intern of sorts. But wouldn't you have been in danger too by being here? Of course I am. After Dutch threw me out, he instantly turned around and hired the ACG to quarantine the town so Varrock's malice could be contained. She scoffed. So he obviously knew it was dangerous. He just needed someone disposable to hopefully bring back a few samples. Keeping the gun steady, although lowering it away from his captive, Chase fought intently as confusion barreled through him. You mean to tell me, is this some kind of test? His voice rose as he spoke. Those fuckers just dropped a vicious killer into Adventure Bay for the whole purpose of a test? Liberty was growing antsy as she unhinged Chase got, fearing his use of weapon. It is, yes, I guess. Yeah, she stuttered apologetically. I'm sorry. And Cyrus and the rest of the ACG, they knew about this? I don't think so. She looked aside. They do know Varrock's malice must be contained and not damaged, and they're not allowed to warn anybody else in Adventure Bay, per Dutch's orders. But I don't think they know it was released on purpose. Disgusted and enraged, Chase bristled his fur and his paw fought to pull the trigger. Killing Liberty would be pointless, if not detrimental. Yet his anger was more surfacing his boiling point. All he could muster out was his animosity and one simple question. So where's Ryder in all this? Liberty went silent, an action that nearly shouted his own answer to more than her words could communicate. It was obvious Chase was going to hate the answer, but he didn't know what to expect at this point. Nothing made sense to him anymore, and although he hitched to save his family, another side of him was fear of festering for answers. He said he was going to the mountains, she continued, voice low but after everything, I don't know what to believe. He lowered his head, tears and sorrow. Everything just... He shook his head. Different, ruined. So where is he? It was a moment before his captive spoke, her eyes showing a faint flicker of sympathy. He was paid by Archland. She couldn't even finish her sentence, as Chase suddenly tackled her to the ground. No! He snarled, fairly barreling into her and pinning the smaller dog into the grass. Don't you say that! Don't you dare say that! He barked, not noticing he dropped his gun. You didn't even begin to tell me that Ryder abandoned us. Chase, Liberty staggered to get under his grip. He's been with us for years, he rambled on, denial in his mind. He saved me. He saved all of us. He's guided us, loved us. He stopped, growing breathless. His voice cracked faintly. He wouldn't do that to us. Shaking his head, he fiercely rejected the idea of someone he looked up to, turning his back on the dogs. Years of inspiration and awe were at risk of being shattered all in an instant. It was not the dog's purpose to express its love and loyalty to its owner, especially that of a German Shepherd, the most hard-working and loyal breed of dog. Animals tended to be forgiving, especially household pets, and that would result if their loyalty was exploded. He choked out, slowly loosening his grip on Liberty. No! Fearful of speaking, Liberty released a terrible truth. Chase, humans are very easily manipulative beings. Archline paying him to do a massive sum of money to leave without saying anything to anyone. Fucking money? The shepherd said in disbelief. Ryder's not greedy. No one's that greedy. He barked in protest. You'd be surprised, Chase. Money could do a lot of things to people, she tried to explain. They gave him enough to make new towers, recruit more dogs, hell, start a new legion. I don't understand. Well, of course you don't, Liberty shrugged. You're not human. Since the beginning, Chase has always made a mistake of desiring answers to things he wouldn't or couldn't understand why. He nearly pulled the trigger on himself by aligning with Cyrus, throwing him down a rabbit hole of terrible truths he wished he never knew. Yet if he had not exposed himself to the terror and destroyed his innocence, Brock's malice likely wouldn't have done more damage as it slipped under his radar. Even now, the puppy struggled against one thing. He fought every day to grip it, yet always slipped from his mind the complexity of humanity. The very thought of a loving owner dropping everything they loved for a couple of $1,000,000 was bewildering to him. Money was nothing to a dog, therefore they had no understanding of it. Sighing, he released Liberty and stepped off. So that's it then, he sighed. It's all over. Not exactly. The smaller dog stood up. There's still another way. Chase looked up at her. You need to come with me back to the Archline Foundation, she explained. I called them after we got out. They want you. They want all of you. What do they want with us? Chase narrowed his eyes. I told him about the biomass Varrock's malice created in the basement. Turns out it's never done that before, she informed him. Since you were all physically exposed to it, Dutch wants you all back for questions. You mean testing? So I locked Marshall in his kennel, she said with a wince, and I had to knock out Rocky maybe. What? Look, you could kill me later, Liberty waved off, but this is your way out of here. Archline is willing to house you all, to save you, to free you from this hell. They're all pissed off that Zuma's gone, and they don't want to lose you too. Chase was skeptical. Why? Because they all care about our safety? Or is it because they don't want to lose any more assets? He growled. Why should I trust anything what these people say if they're the ones who doomed down the town to begin with? You have no other option. A silence followed as Chase ran out of words. He was dumbfounded, going through any other road in his head, only to find that each one led to a dead end. Was Archline truly the only way out now? He just wanted his family to be safe, and if turning themselves over to the scientists was the only way out, then it would be the only way to go. After a long moment of thought, the shepherd spoke with great reluctance. I don't trust you, he said. I will never trust you. I wouldn't even dare walk a water dish with you. Leering up at her and growled a hiss through his teeth. I hate you, and I want to hurt you. The sole reason I'm not is because I want to get out of here alive. And when we do, I don't ever want to see you or hear from you ever again. Liberty visibly expressed relief. Good enough. I promise everything will go smoothly from here on out. So what happens now? Liberty pointed at a few remaining kennels. I have to contain you. She simply gave an apologetic smile. Contain me? Chase flatly repeated their words with a blank expression. Dutch's orders. Since you're a complaint, thank God, I could put you in with Marshall. The shepherd raised an eyebrow. This Dutch seems to have a lot under his paws. You have no idea. A shudder went through Liberty's small body. This may not only be the bioweapon he's unleashed. but he leads all the Archline Foundation, and he's hell-bent on making twisted fabrications of nature. Chase narrowed his eyes and listened. Why haven't we heard of him? She gave him a defeated look. You'd be surprised on how much Adventure Bay he controls. Although this new information disturbed him greatly, Chase was more concerned of seeing his family again. He merely shrugged and began walking over to the end, to the red dormant fire engine. He wasn't too happy about being caged like a feral animal, but up to this point he no longer had anything to say at all. He was done fighting and ready to turn himself over to anything that could save him. Both dogs approached the closed kennel, slowly, steady, treading through the grass. The sun was lifting higher in the sky, yet the atmosphere was still painted in beautiful orange and yellow. It was almost like the sky was mocking them, painting a beautiful canvas over such a tragic scene. How did you lock the kennel from outside? Chase pricked his ears, trying to listen for any sound of Marshall inside. To his interest, he couldn't even hear a sound. Liberty pointed her paw at the piece of sharpener she jammed into the side of the door. Jammed the mechanism. It was an interesting tactic that Chase felt unique and awe at seeing. For a split second, he wondered what would have happened if he had sealed the kennels during his attempt lockdown. It seemed like months ago the first body fell. Chase was even weaker then, naive, and would forever curse his younger self for making such an action. All right, Marshall. Liberty pulled out the jammed metal. I got you a friend. She then wedged her nose under the door and began to lift up. A smile peeled across Chase's face, eager to see the Dalmatian again. The door was lifted up, revealing a completely empty kennel. Liberty blanked, faltering in disbelief. What? Huh? Clear confusion spread across her face, her eyes flicking at every corner of the den. Where is he? Chase asked in confusion. You said he was there. The kennel was all too unchanged. A slightly messy dog bed, treat crumbs, a built-in desk with a scattered fire equipment, the signature fireplace, and a faint aroma of chicken kibble decorated the interior. It was explicitly Marshall's kennel, and yet the supposed Dalmatian was missing. Liberty stuttered, alarm flaring in her as she walked to it. I locked him in, but he couldn't have escaped. Are you sure? He sniffed his nose, ignoring the delectable chicken scent for any sign of his brother. He definitely smelt a hint of him, but Marshall wasn't there. The city dog whipped her head towards him. What, you think I'm crazy? She lashed out. I let him here. I watched him walk in, and then I shut the door. Walking into the kennel, Chase sniffed around, trying to find hone of his detective skills. How could Marshall escape if the door had been sealed? Every kennel has a one-way in and one-way out, right? Liberty frantically asked him, questioning her own sanity. Looking forward, Chase's eyes rested on the small structure that resided on the wall far off the wall of the den. One piece of kennel that Marshall was proud of having. The fireplace opening in the wall was surrounded by paved concrete to protect the rest of the den, housing 2 little logs and a blanket of soot, and the interior contained a hole at the top connected to a chimney. Not this one, Chase slowly grinned. That clever dog. Sniffing the fireplace and easily sneezing as soot went up his nose. He noted the paw prints to the back black sand. A fucking fireplace? The city dog quipped behind him. Thanks to Rocky's help, Marshall built this into his kennel. The shepherd was beaming with pride, wide smile wordlessly conveying to silent triumph over his brother's indentually. We called him crazy for it. Come on! Marshall grunted as he struggled to drag Rocky's body across the dirty floor, holding the mix by his scruff. He vigorously pulled with all of his strength in his teeth and neck could muster. Rocky was certainly heavier than he looked. The Dalmatian ached all over, his white body now blackened with soot and tiny pieces of debris. The wet grass outside cleaned out the undersides of his paw as he snuck away, but he remained filthy. He watched Liberty attack Rocky from behind. The mix was blinded by his own trust for the city dachshund, a dog who never fit in since they first met. After his brother was knocked to the ground, Marshall was helpless as Liberty pulled a knife on him, ordering him to get to his kennel. With regard of his own life, he obeyed and was escorted into his home. He heard the door get pulled down behind him, followed by the sound of bending metal as something was jammed to seal it. After pacing around his kennel for a few times, a fit of anger rose within him, like a burning of fire. Far too long he had been pushed around and led on the leashes. It was time for him to act. Narrowing his eyes as a fierce determination turned to him, he wriggled himself into the lit fireplace and climbed up the chimney. Sneaking behind the kennel's deterior Liberty's line of sight, he returned to where Rocky's body lay in the grass and grabbed him. Realizing how quickly heavy he was, he knew that there was no time to drag him across the clearing and into the forest. For cover's sake, he had to return to the lookout, or what was left of it. Pulling Rocky through the shattered glass doors, they crouched down in low of what appeared to be the interior of the elevator. After the main upper floor crashed down, the area around them was shrouded in complete wreckage, effectively hiding them. "Come on!" He pulled Rocky into a dark corner and tried to shake him awake. "Wake up! Don't tell me this is what you does to you after we've all been through!" He slapped a paw across the mix's face, trying to whatever he could to open his eyes. The impact jerked the gray dog's face to the left, and Marshall's pad stung from the force. "Don't make me deal with Liberty by myself, please." He tried to growl, attempting to hide his growing sorrow behind playfulness. "Wake up!" He slapped him again. To his relief, Rocky began to stir. He shifted on the ground. "Ow, dude, my head." He groaned in mild pain, reaching a paw up to his face. "What the hell? Hey, you're not allowed to die yet." Marshall laughed as his tears away. "Now get up." Reaching out a paw that could be helped up, Rocky winced. "What happened?" "Liberty happened. She backstabbed all of us just like Zuma." The firefighter spat, helping his brother back to his paws. "And without Chase, it's just me and you now." "Is he really is gone, isn't he?" The mix lowered his ears. "I could kinda still smell him around, though." "Yeah, so do I. I don't think he'll ever leave my nose." Rocky looked to the ground, trying to make sense of Chase's final order. "I guess I'm the leader now." "A leader of what? Me?" Marshall tilted his head. "There's no one else left." "Well, I'd rather have you instead of no one at all," smiled the mix, happy that there was even one piece of remaining of the Paw Patrol. "If we take Liberty together, we can overpower her and maybe get some answers." Looking back towards the wreckage around them, both dogs took a moment to take in the ruin that was in their home. Rocky knew that they had to leave when everything was finished, but before they go unheard of his mind, surely they weren't going back to the streets. He had vowed himself and every dog that he loved never to be seen them in those alleyways. A great sadness befell upon them, and they took a moment to sit down on all fours, mourning for the end of their organization. A gentle voice floated up. "Guys?" Both dogs sprang up in alarm, darting their wide eyes forward towards the source of the voice. It had seemingly come from below, a few feet away from where a large pile of wreckage stood. Underneath it, the floor had caved in, exposing the basement. The voice was recognized immediately by Marshall. That was Zuma. His heartbeat quickened as he looked around, starting to walk over. Rocky was unsure. He couldn't find the words to explain why. Zuma?" Marshall called, barking loudly into the stuffy air. "Are you alive?" After a few seconds, Zuma's voice piped up from below the debris. "I am, thank goodness. I thought you were both dead." The voice was muffled and weak, as it struggled its words through the solid wreckage between them. "Where are you?" The Dalmatian picked up his pace. The Labrador's betrayal was still fresh in his mind, but Marshall's sole weakness was his own heart. Rocky narrowed his eyes. "Marshall!" "Up here!" The voice gently nudged the debris, plugging away the newly formed entrance into the basement. "I just need an opening and I could climb out." Scooping out quickly the pile of metal and twisted steel, Marshall spotted the sheet of metal that was plugged into the side, desperate to save his brother. He gripped the twisted piece of debris and started trying to yank it out. A shiver went up Rocky's spine. "Marshall, wait! Rocky, help me out of here!" The firefighter ignored the protests of another dog, snarling as he attacked the metal. Slowly it began to come loose, and the dread surged within Rocky. only multiplying with each tug that the Dalmatian gave. Managing to bend it outwards just a little, the tiny opening was created in the wreckage, and Marshall reached his paw in. "Here, grab my paw, and I can pull you out." Alarm flared in the gray mix, springing him into action. "Marshall, no!" He ran forward and tackled the Dalmatian away, forcibly pulling his arm out. They both crashed a few feet away to the ground. "What? Ow, what are you?" The firefighter bristled as he kicked up dust. "What were you doing? I felt him. I felt his paw." Hyperventilating. Fear plunged into Rocky's voice as he looked back with a silent prayer that it wasn't too late. His fur stood up on one end, breathing heavily, as he kept Marshall pinned. The Dalmatian fought first, snarling a claw away from Rocky's leg, only for the stench of burned flesh and gore to emit it through the opening he created. His anger died out, and the fear locked up his throat. "We're supposed to help each other," the voice said again. Still Zuma. "So why?" A massive bang of impact shook the wreckage as something below smacked against it. "What are you?" Another bang shot through the air as flesh collided with metal. Rocky and Marshall stood up, traveling backward as the terror climbed up in their bones. The voice angered, shifting its pitch and tone until it wasn't Zuma's at all, but Rubble's, defying the inevitable. The creature below screeched in rage, driving its tentacles into the fine cracks and wiggling with them between pieces of metal. The dogs watched in horror as the numerous worm-like appendages burst from the crevices of the metal and glass, wrapped around them and tearing away each chunk. The monster trapped within was not keen on the containment and was slowly forcing its way back into the daylight. With nowhere to go or hide, both dogs turned and ran. Liberty and Chase were arguing when they heard the commotion. The shepherd was fed up by his limits and failed games and ploys, and he was about ready to shoot her legs out. Sensing the hostility, Liberty was growing more defensive, even believing that she would have to resort to violence after all. Just before they came in teeth and claws, the sound of panicked yelling made both dogs turn their heads. "Run!" Rocky called as he sprinted out onto the grass. "It's Chase?" He skidded to a halt upon seeing his former leader. "Fuck, you're awake?" Liberty snarled at the realization that she didn't hit him hard enough. Marshall came front. "Chase, you're alive!" Ignoring Liberty's presence, the Dalmatian happily ran forward and threw himself onto Chase, wrapping his arms tightly around him in an embrace. An audible squeak was heard from the shepherd as he was squeezed tightly, forcing the air out of his body for a nanosecond. Rocky was overjoyed to see his leader alive, but his attention turned on the traitor. Liberty needed to be dealt with. "You!" he snarled, baring his teeth as he stalked over to her. The dashhound sensed it immediately. "Hey, back off! I have a knife." "Fuck your knife." The mix waved off. "I'm gonna tear you apart." "Oh, Rocky, hold on." Chase tried to pry Marshall off. "Just give her a..." All four dogs were cut off by a piercing scream, slicing through the air, making them stop and face the source of the sound. Chase and Rocky all turned with firm expressions and narrowed eyes, flattened ears. Marshall took a step back, but anxiously swallowed and made his own stand. He was afraid, but this was no time to run away and flee. Overcome in horror, Liberty was ready to backing away, terror crawling across her face. To say that Varrock's malice emerged from the wreckage was the understatement. It exploded out of the top, smashing through the roof of the tower and sending smashed pieces of metal raining down, bristling its festering body, dripping and oozing with blood and bodily fluids, snapping and cracking its spindly limbs. It emerged out like an angry god, staring down at its prey with the unmasked teeth lined the head. "Holy shit!" Rocky stepped back. Screeching above him, Varrock's malice crouched down and planted its claws onto the roof, tearing up large pieces of metal like paper. Its tail traveled under the roof it stood on, figuring out the pieces of debris like candy. Roaring its signature screech, it lifted off pieces of metal and meshed them into one massive ball of scrap. "Look out!" Chase snapped, as he watched the creature lifted above his head. They scattered as Varrock's malice flung the projectile into them. It smashed onto the ground, breaking apart the blast of shrapnel. Rocky ducked at his head at the sound, sprinting for his life and for a kennel. It wasn't a good protection, but it was something with the roof over its head. Liberty and Marshall dove under the pieces of the fallen tower, sprawled out across the clearing. Where there they hid, fearful as they quivered before the terror of unstoppable monster. Diving into a roll, Chase dodged the attack with a growl, briefly shaking his head of the dizziness. Enraged, Varrock's malice crouched down and moved its haunches, and Chase realized quickly that it was about to spring. Its tail danced in the air along with the rest of its tentacles, itching to be bloodied. Pushing against its powerful legs, the monster leapt into the air like a rabbit, its claws outstretched as a screech emitted from its teeth. Chase had nowhere to run, as Varrock's malice landed directly in front of him. The shockwave of the landing, knocking him over as grass and dirt pedaled him. Coughing out blades of grass, the shepherd fearfully tried to stagger up, his voice cracking. The creature stood tall, rearing into its full height on two legs. It's utterly massive in size when standing up, even possibly towering over a grown adult. Growling as foul liquid stretched from its body, it stared down at the puppy with its flexed claws. Chase's eyes fell onto Varrock's malice's left shoulder. He spotted something he wished he didn't. Embedded into the creature's shoulder was the bloody, mangled corpse of Zuma, his fallen brother ripped in half and now worn like a trophy in its body. Zuma, this shepherd breathed in horror. Thousands of the living within me. Zuma's voice emitted from Varrock's malice's chest, devoured and assimilated in my own form. It snarled, its teeth almost vibrating. Zuma is not dead, Chase, the voice laughed, puppeteering the Labrador. He is alive, right here. The creature lifted his arm, pointed the claw at Zuma's strung corpse. While it is connected with me, his mind is kept alive, as is Rebel's as well. I keep them because I need their voices, their memories and their strength. Together we are one, our minds intertwined. Does it bring you the solstice to know that they are not truly dead? Varrock's malice emitted a noise, almost a laugh, and you should be happy, because soon you'll see them again within me. Aghast with terror, Chase couldn't find the words to speak as he looked up at the terrifying creature. His body flattened as his chest heartbeat accelerated, his breaths picking up the speed as he couldn't keep track of. And I know, the creature suddenly swapped with the voice of Rebel, that there is nothing you want more than to see your loved ones again. It reached out, outstretching its arm with open claws. So let me grant you that wish. This was it. Chase was going to die. For a moment he wanted to run, as his paws shook for an explosive moment, but a lingering static filled his head in what he thought was his final seconds. All Chase saw were claws of the creature, reaching out to snatch him up. The shepherd shut his eyes. A high-caliber gunshot was into the air, followed by several more. The crack of the rifle pierced in the ears of the dog, making him dive with his paws over heads. Chase instantly drove to the ground as he heard it. A strike of panic stabbing him for a moment he feared that he had accidentally killed someone else. An enraged screech sounded for Varrock's malice as bullets tore through its chest, blasting out bits of gore and blood. The creature stumbled back as its organs screamed against his new wounds, hunching its body over as it took to all fours. Its tail whipped Chase across the forehead as it scampered to a retreat, fleeing for the cover of the lookout wreckage. Wincing from the sting, Chase was further knocked into the grass. Marshall peeked out from behind and was jagged metal, trying to get a look at him at the smoking gun. Who? A relieved smile suddenly peeled across his face, and he never felt so happy to see the ACG. Go, go! Cyrus barked, running with his rifle. Don't let it get away! In seconds, dozens of armored dogs sprinted out of the forest, brandishing rifles as they charged in. While Marshall was elated by their saviors, Rocky took a step back in fear. Oh no! The trauma of agony he endured days ago from the military squad was still fresh in his mind. Rocky, wait! The Dalmatian beside him turned, trying to console him. They're here to help! But his words fell on deaf gray ears. as Rocky suddenly grabbed him and began pulling him away. "Come on, we're getting out! Run!" The mix rapidly fired his words as he tried to drag his brother. While the two dogs tussled to keep one another stable, Liberty spotted the ACG and a growl of annoyance left her breath. They weren't supposed to be here. The Archline needed some more time to pick them up. Agitated at the intervention, the dachshund backed up into the shadows, seeking to stay out of their sight. "Chase, you're alive!" Cyrus ran up to the puppy, a dog he had written off as dead so long ago. "Holy shit, you're actually alive! I owe you an apology." The shepherd fearfully opened his eyes, looking up. "Cyrus?" His eyes winced. You heard my message?" "Of course we did." The Malinois nodded, frantically. "And we're here. Geez, you look terrible." He winced audibly, seeing the puppy burned condition. "Go with Bella. We'll take this thing down and wrangle up the survivors." "Bella?" Chase asked, but the Malinois' leader ran off in pursuit of the creature. Before he could answer the question, his ears were filled with explosive sounds as dog after dog sprinted into view, surrounding the lookout ruins with guns loaded. Every single one was armored and brandishing weapons, ready to take down the threat once and for all. Slowly standing up, Chase heard his name get called. Turning around, and he spotted a white Labrador retriever walking towards him. "Chase!" she called. "Come on! I'm here to get you to safety." "Who?" He blinked, his mind tampered with all the sudden confusion. "It's me, Bella," she said firmly. "Remember? We met at a coffee shop a few days ago, and I kinda subtly threatened you to stay out of things." The lab chuckled. "I guess you didn't, heh." "You." Chase's eyes widened. "I remember you." "Glad to hear it," Bella smiled. "Now come on." But Chase didn't budge right away, instead of taking a step back with a skeptical expression. "You aren't the one to help. You're just trying to contain it." Who told you that?" "Liberty. Archline's little spy," the shepherd growled, unsure of trusting literally anyone at all. "She told me everything. You never came to Adventure Bay to save anyone. You just want the creature." Bella's gaze hardened for a split second, looking Chase up and down with deciding uncertainty. No point in being hostile to a puppy, especially one that just survived the depths of hell. "Yes, it's true," she said, clenching her in a narrow voice. "In figures Dutch would send a spy. Guess he didn't fully trust us." "Can I trust you?" Chase shot his expression, first still spiked on the end. A distant screech of rocks malice penetrated the air, making both dogs dart their gaze at the tower wreckage with tense fur. Realizing time was short, Bella held out her paw. "I wouldn't blame you if you didn't, but you only need to understand that we ordered to do things we did." "Oh really?" The puppy was unconvinced. "Then you're just as much of a pawn as the rest of us. What's next, Bella? Secure Varrock's malice, kills us all off?" "No," she said with a sharp growl, determined to let the shepherd join her. "You could say there has been a change of plans. We're not here to secure it anymore." The retriever looked towards the wreckage. "We cannot allow this thing to cause any more harm." As Bella tried to lead the puppy away, Chase couldn't help but look back at the tower wreckage. Rocky and Marshall was still there. The exact location Varrock's mouse just filled in. The other two, they're still in there. "We know. We'll do whatever we can to get them out." "And..." Chase stuttered, when his eyes suddenly fell on someone else. Liberty. Even among the hundreds of dogs swarming the clearing, he could easily spot the dachshund, peeking out from behind her cover. Narrowing his eyes, he witnessed the smaller dog suddenly tear away, fleeing the scene. An alarm picked up, knowing Liberty was a part of the enemy faction. She simply just couldn't get away. "Wait!" The shepherd jumped away from the soldier. "After her!" Bella had little time to react. "Who?" She was too late. Chase had already exploded into a run, sprinting away from her and charging towards the forest after Liberty. A call of his name was barked into the air, but it was unclear if Chase didn't hear or ignored it entirely. After all of his mistakes, he had to rectify something, fix even one thing to repay that could be ruined. It started with the catching Liberty and bringing her to justice, dragging her before Cyrus shed a light on to Archline's crimes, his own rage and drive chugging him along. Chase disappeared into the forest. "No!" Rocky shouted as he backed up. Marshall firmly pinned behind him. "You won't take me!" The two ACG soldiers before him stood up with their paws, although keeping their guns steady. "Kid, come on!" One of them spoke through the fabric mask in his black ears flattening. "You'll need to cooperate with us." A full squad charged into the wreckage, fully ready to lay their lives in pursuit of Varrock's malice. There were found among the remaining members of the Paw Patrol, arguing with one another about who to trust. Marshall was attempting to speak the words to reason the mix, as his body was painfully pressed against the debris that behind him, but Rocky ignored it. The floor beneath the mix was unstable, showing clear damage from the explosion. Any more stress and it would have crashed into the basement, dooming Rocky into a dark fate, rendering him from a sitting duck for Varrock's malice. "I remember what you did to me," the mix bared his teeth. "You hurt me. You hurt all of us." The soldier turned his gun around his back, trying to get a hold of his gloved paw. "You're not safe. Varrock's malice hid you here. You need to get away." The ACG soldiers really wanted to grab Rocky in their paws and carry him out, but the clear damage to the floor canceled out their options. Any more weight could fracture it. Rocky would have to walk them willingly. Piercing screeches tore through the ears as Varrock's malice blasted out into view, rupturing the canopy of the tower's roof and sending metal shrapnel in all directions. 3 other ACG soldiers immediately turned and opened fire at the creature, the deafening pops of rifles splitting through the air, the sounds of gunfire, roars of the creature, and bullets striking off metal surfaces only struck Rocky's mind even more. Varrock's malice snarled in rage, spitting its tentacle out from its mouth and impaling one of the soldiers, prompting an agonized scream as blood streaked from the shattered armor. It pulled the soldier into its jaw, clamping its teeth in and flinging it around like a dead prey, snapping his bones beyond repair. The dog's corpse was tossed aside, Varrock's malice's tail ensnared with the other soldier's leg, whipping him into the air and slamming him off the wall. A blood-splattered formed on the surface as the soldier collapsed below, unmoving. The splashes of blood and screaming set alarm for the other soldiers. "Look, kid, there's no time," he pleaded to Rocky. The second soldier was forced to turn away, drawing his weapon at the firming creature. Varrock's malice seemed to shrug off the bullets that it hit, raking its claws through another soldier and rendering him into bloody shreds. More soldiers flooded in. Marshall was managing to wedge out of Rocky's grip and fleeing out into safety. It was only Rocky left now, while Varrock's malice cut, stabbed, and shredded whatever dog dared to attack it. Bloody body gore and broken armor flung in directions. But the ACG was relentless. "Flamethrowers!" Cyrus shouted into his radio, while Marshall ran beside him and cowered under. A soldier turned to his side to face him. "We're not containing it anymore." "Screw Archline. I'm tired of standing oddly by when this town falls into ruin." The Balanoid snapped at his comrade. "We can't let this thing continue on. I know we had orders to secure it safely, but too many have died, and we're killing it here and now." Now rebelling against the order, he bristled out and shouted into the radio, "Flamethrowers! All of them!" A military helicopter soldered down from the sky. The screeches of Varrock's malice is clearly audible as the soldiers fought to keep it at bay. Hovering over a couple of feet above the ground, its side doors opened, and several Great Danes in heavy armors all jumped out and landed into the blood-stained grass. They carried gas canisters strapped into their backs, fire-resistant armor, and masks shrouding their bodies. They were truly terrifying soldiers, driven home by the flamethrowers that they carried at their sides. "Look, kid, you're gonna die if you don't move," the soldier barked, flattening his ears. Rocky remained defiant. "I'll never trust you. You hurt me. You beat me." The second trooper turned around. "That wasn't us. We can—" He was cut off as Varrock's malice's claws snatched him away from where he stood, snapping him in its grip and tossing him away. The remaining soldier flinched in terror as he turned back to Rocky. Who was it?" he asked frantically. "The ones who hurt you. Come with me, and I promise we'll find them out," the soldier pleaded, seeing the floor under Rocky begin to crack. "We never wanted to hurt you. We were just afraid. We all were afraid, knowing what this creature was capable of," he said desperately, once again reaching out his paw. Please come with me." Seeing the soldier reach out to him, Rocky continued quivering as words churned in within him. The pup was terrified, his own PTSD flashing before his face. It was the ACG who scarred him and beat him, and now they were trying to snatch him up. His fear clouded him. He fought it over as his paws scratched against the unstable concrete floor. Could he see justice for those that hurt him? Was it even possible? He had little to nothing to go off. You promise?" he asked shakily. The soldier hastily turned his head to the side, flinching even more uncomfortable being up close proximity of the creature. "Yes, absolutely." He turned back to the puppy, holding out his paw further. Even though the military goggles and mask, he looked behind his brown eyes into the mix, trying with every fiber of his being just to be sincere. The explosion of metal sent debris flying over their heads, complete with the group of ACG soldiers, all screaming in terror. There was a little time, and Rocky gulped as his heart quickened. Fearfully, he began to extend his gray arm outward, and the soldier held his own paw out further in response. Tossing the soldier aside, Varrock's malice roared as it pinned another down and snapping its teeth into the dog's body, tearing it in half, blood dripping from its maw. It merely looked up, spotting Rocky and the soldier, rage gripping within its claws. It hissed its tentacle over its face and flexed its claws. Taking the final step, Rocky braced himself as he held his paw out, and the soldier finally managed to grab him in a swift pull. Rocky was yanked off the floor and up onto the dog's back. The soldier wasted no time in turning around and beginning to spring for the outside, only to realize Varrock's malice was charging straight towards them. Snarling and seething fury, the creature reached for the dogs with the outstretched claws. A massive cloud of fire blasted into the ruins, the dogs armed with flamethrowers marching as they pulled the triggers on the horrific weapons. Each nozzle spewed out unforgiving flame into the area that burned and seared over anything that it touched. Varrock's malice was almost entirely consumed by it, prompting it to spring backward in fear. Rocky was swiftly carried to safety, his tail and back leg now caught on fire. Varrock's malice screeched in rage as pain circulated through it. The flamethrower dogs only took this as a sign of progress and aimed their weapons at the second time. Defiant, the creature refused to die, instead of fled. It braced its straining arms over the face and smashed through the wall, rupturing out the side of the lookout in the wreckage. Varrock's malice emerged outside, clearing, prompting a hostile response from the ACG soldiers, hissing in annoyance as bullets cut through in the flesh. Its split jaws open in a roar, annoying, warning the helicopter, reaching further agitated as the vehicle's searchlight beamed into the creature. The lookout, suffering a final burst of damage, finally collapsed in dust and ruin. It was no longer possible to enter the wreckage, as now it was nothing more than a pile of broken metal and shattered memories. Trying to shake off the flames on the backside, Varrock's malice went to all fours and sprinted off towards the forest, its tentacles swiftly twirling in the air as it ran. As it pushed through the shrubbery, its flaming tail slapped against a tree, suddenly sparking a flame on its branches. Cyrus reared in horror as he witnessed the tree begin to light up in flames, the fire already spreading along the forest. "Dear God," Cyrus breathed, then shook himself in fear. "All units, don't let it get away!" He picked up his own weapon and charged after it, dozens of remaining ACG soldiers, including Bella, running at his side. A few soldiers stayed behind to tend to Rocky and Marshall, with visible proof that the creature was no longer in the direct clearing. They were confident enough to land the helicopter and set up a medical station within it. Even both puppies they were carried in, they couldn't help but fearfully glance at the forest, now slowly erupting into a fiery inferno. Chase was there, Liberty was as well. Varrock's malice shortly after, and now Cyrus with his legion charging into the flames after them. Whatever would happen soon in the burning forest would mean the fate of Adventure Bay.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.